Little bumpy. Hundreds of a second. That's less than the blink of an
Race 7, BMW IBSF 4-man Bobsleigh World Cup. This is actually a double race weekend in Innsbruck in Austria. The World Cup finale will be in Sigulda, and you can't get a 4-man sled up in the lift. That's the simple... It doesn't sound logical, but that's the way it is. You need a lift to get to the start, and 4 men just don't fit. So that'll be a double 2-man weekend, and so we do double 4-man duty, and that will make this a real rocking paradise for our sliders. Martin Haven and Brianna Walker with you watching the action. And Bri, racing on the track this morning, ice is pretty quick, right?
Yeah, it's really fast. We had a track record by Lisa Butwitz in the first heat there. As you come around corner 1, very small corner into corner 2, big long sweeping right-hander coming down. A little bit tricky off this corner this year with a left-hander here into corner 3, coming down into a very tricky part of the track, corner 4, and then corner 5. Coming down into 6 is where you really start to pick up the speed as you head into Kreisel. Long Kreisel here, coming down perfect, and it sends you right into 8. And tricky corner 9 here, but you want to get a nice slingshot effect as you come down into corner 10, and you're hitting your top speed here as you come into 11, 12, and then 13 with the final corner, big left-hander into 14. And obviously the brake stretch is always very interesting here.
Yeah, it's ended the season for hometown Queen Janine Flock, clattered herself and cannot stand up now after yesterday's skeleton race. Had track records in every race so far this season. An interesting battle for the Crystal Globe. After 2 straight wins in Altenburg last time we were racing in the World Cup, Brad Hall now ties Francesco Friedrich for the World Cup lead. And I don't know that a British slider has ever won a World Cup in bobsled. Kristen Bromley was the last to do so in men's skeleton, Lizzie Yarnold in women's skeleton, all this century, so in my lifetime, but for Francesco Friedrich not to win the Crystal Globe would be a big, big shock. Now, the air temperature is 3 degrees, feels colder because it's pretty cloudy overhead, but as I said, it has been record fast ice, record fast in training as well, so everybody knew it was going to be a quick race weekend. And these big 4-man sleds, they're kind of a tight fit, so we might see a few. There were real key points in the mono. 4 to 5, nobody escaped there without a tap. Out of 6 down to 7, down to the Kreisel, nobody escaped there without a tap. And the few lower down. So we'll wait and see with interest what happens. Well, this is our entry list. We have 21 sleds, and only 20 will go through into the second heat. So somebody will join the fans at the end of the first run. It may be one of our very first, maybe one of our very last names on the start list. So let's get the race underway here for the first time in Innsbruck. Race 7, BMW IBSF 4-man Bobsleigh World Cup in Innsbruck in Austria. Martin Haven and Bri Walker watching a brand new name, David Bechler for France, with fellow debutants Thomas Drouillet, Fabien Rebiger and Alain Lys on the back of the sled. Alain Lys has started 7 previous 4-man World Cups. The driver, David Bechler, started in 2012. He will be 50 years old on Wednesday, so the least youthful of our competitors, I think.
Yeah, David has been around for a very long time, sliding on the lower circuit, so it's great to see him here in the World Cup. A little bit tricky coming into 2 there, but he's got the sled back online as he comes down, exiting corner 3. And let's see how he navigates the first section here. Not too bad, really quite nice. Just a little tap as he comes into Kreisel with a nice high line coming down. But he hits a hammer there just before going into 8. Nice line as he exits corner 1 there. I mean corner 9, sorry. Not bad through the lower labyrinth, and he comes into the finish with a 51.55.
Yells back to the brakeman to get the brakes on. You have to have a brief break before the last corner.
And I do not think he is going to be the first one.
No.
The last one to go up onto the black rubber there. The sled lifted up as it came around the corner, and there's going to be a lot of action in the straight, in that finish break.
Yeah, Austria's Cathy Bile wanted me to come down in the back of a two-seat sled as one of the spur bobs today. I think that's a bad idea. These things are tough to stop at the best of times.
Yep.
Never mind with a muppet like me behind. Well, not bad lines. After St. Moritz, where the corners are long and flowing and there are straights and time to think, this comes at you at a bit of a rush, doesn't it?
Yeah, the corners are a lot quicker, a lot shorter. And then especially that upper labyrinth, it's cut very different this year. And so some athletes have been having a bit of trouble, but David didn't do it too bad.
Yeah. Well, the braking area, this finish area, is definitely the most dangerous ice anywhere on the planet. You can take Whistler quite happily, but nobody likes coming across the finish line here. Coming across the finish line is fine. It's a couple of 100 metres afterwards where you're trying to get the thing stopped from 75 miles an hour.
And especially with a double four-man this weekend, the braking stretch gets really chewed up, and it gets trickier and trickier as the race goes on.
Yeah, you need the brakes to dig into ice, not just into loose snow. That's not helping much. I was saying 70, actually 79 miles an hour, the top speed for our very first sled. Next up, Pat Norton has never raced here. Mathieu Gosselin, David Casera, and William Ashley, the crew behind him.
The 5:41, they matched David at the start. That first corner there is getting a little off guard, but he's got the sled back online, and he's up on David.
It's been quite a mild winter. There's not much snow below the mountains here in the Tyrol, and as a result, I think the track is sort of melted, frozen. There's quite a lot of ice build up in unusual places.
Yeah, and they said there was a big snowfall just before the race here this week, and that made cutting the ice much trickier.
Better speed than we saw from David Bachelard. So Pat Norton, nice high parabola, not fighting the sled, let it climb, bring it down.
Nice work as he comes down into the final corner here with a 51.07.
80 miles an hour across the line. Whoa! And there is the dramatic braking stretch. Now, you will see Hansi Lochner's crew and Francesco Friedrich's crew come in like there's no drama at all and just bring it down to the finish area, and yep, there we are.
No, but these guys didn't do too bad as well. You got to really have sharp brakes here. It was really high on the exit of Chrysler, and he just drove it down really hard, which made him get pressure back to the right-hand side, so his nose was pointing away from 8, but he managed it quite nicely.
So 51.07, just to recap on the start records, 493, dating back to January 2013. Boy.
Wow. Hey everyone, thanks for watching.
There's Pat Norton, happy as ever with his run and his crew. And the driving records, 2019, 20th of January, 50.42 from Francesco Friedrich. We're only 6/10 away from that. We've only had 2 sleds down. Next up, Li Chunjian of China, raced here in 2019 and last December in 4-man in Europe Cup. Took a bronze medal in one of the 2 races here in December. So good recent knowledge and memories of the track. But as you say, lots of changes in the ice probably since then. Ding Song, Ye Jilong and Wu Qinqi, they're his regular 4-man crew. They competed with him in the 4-man Worlds just last week.
Great to see a lot of people at the start cheering on too. That's fantastic to see. Oh! But he caught the wall just before heading into corner 1. Oh, and he cannot get the sled back online as he comes through corner 2.
It felt like he was really struggling to get the D-rings in his hands there, and the sled just jerked offline. So he obviously got one and pulled it tight and the other one not.
A little bit high there on the exit of 5 as well. And on 6 as he comes down, a bit skidding into Kreisel. Quite a high line as he comes down through Kreisel, but nice straight line into 8.
And when you have a drama at the start, you've got to remember not to curse yourself all the way down, because you're doing 80 miles an hour at the bottom here. You need to focus.
Oh, very high line as he comes into 10. Probably the highest we're going to see today. I think he hit the roof and flying through 13 and 14.
And still, 200s behind Pat Norton. Lots of drama. Well, unintentionally, that was almost, you know, It was halfway to disaster, and yet it still absolutely flew. Mind you, they did start 3/10 quicker than Pat Norton's crew, despite that clatter in the wall, taking speed out.
Yeah, I bet she's going to be kicking himself. The third guy just was a little bit late getting in, and I actually don't think he had the D-rings in his hands and just clipped the wall there.
He was still sitting down as they come out of the drive lines. They ran that too deep.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing here with Eagles. The start is so important, but you have to...
But it's so short.
And you have to have a balance. Do you want, how far do you want to run in order to be able to get a good start time? But then you've got to get your hand on the D-rings. But yeah, that line there in 10, very high.
Don't see many fighting the woodwork there in corner 10. Now, Christoph Hafer for Germany. 21st four-man World Cup for him. His best, a 9th in January 2021. With Michael Salzer, Matthias Sommer and Tobias Schneider behind him.
And I'll try not to be too biased here. Hafer is in my training group at home and also is a pilot of my boyfriend. Shout out to Christian. We miss you on the circuit.
Not that much, though. In we go, down and neat and tidy, 5:11 getaway. And corner 1 is just sort of a lumpy, bumpy thing in the way, really, isn't it?
It seems to just be clipping the ends of these long four-man sleds. It's much easier to get around in the Monobob, obviously, because it's much shorter. But Hafer has managed that pretty well.
Got a handy early lead over Pat Norton, but he'll want that. He should be up towards the medals. Second best speed only.
Lovely line coming into corner 8. Only second best speed, though.
Well, still half a second up on the Canadian sled.
Really nice lines. A little bit high on the end of 10 there.
Down in the labyrinth. This is where it all just rushes at you in a four-man. There's no room for correction at all. 50.61. And we are 21 hundredths away from the track record. That is going in the first heat. There is no question about that. Well, still looking for sponsorship, as you can see from the logos on the sled. Not everything in the German team is 100% funded. Lots of
a little bit late going there onto corner 1, which makes the sled swing left and then swing right as he goes onto corner 2.
He's leading the nose, but all the weight wasn't following, was it?
Really driving off the end of 9 there, but he did a really good job, and just a little brush as he goes into 10.
And that nudges him back on the right line.
Hey Jungs, habt ihr einen Stupsel dabei?
Christoph Hafer, the leader, after the first 4 of 21 sleds. Next up, Switzerland's Mickey Vogt, 32nd to a four-man World Cup start for him. Silvio Weber in at 2 in place of Cyril Bieri. Alan Nusser and Sanjo Mikkel are the crew. Chris Woolley at the back there. There have been so many Swiss seat changes today. I was saying to Woolley earlier on, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him absent from the block, which would mean he was pretending to be somebody else. He does have a license, so he is legal to race. 5:13.
Looked like he got a little bit stuck in there, but managed to get the hands on the D-rings quite quickly and get through corner 1 and 2. Not bad as he comes down into corner 3. Nice as he comes into early on 5. Really good driving here.
There's more grit with the four-man. Everybody's avoiding that 4-5 tap that you were taking in the monos and that all the skeleton sliders are hitting.
Yeah, really nice lines as he comes down. Only second best speed, but he's doing a fantastic job. Really straight down the middle through the straights.
Nice, good height. He's bringing you back to Hafer. He's got better speed than the German sled. This is going to be close, but he should have the lead at the line by. No, he doesn't.
Only 200ths, though. Not bad at the bottom there.
Well, we've seen some very tight races, a couple of ties in the mono, lots of very close battles in the skeleton yesterday as well. And Hafer leads by 200ths from Mickey Vogt, with Norton and Lee of China also 200ths apart in 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, Michi had a very nice line here. Really beautiful down the middle. These four-mans are so tricky, and he has done a fantastic job there, letting it fly down the bottom. But that's the thing with Eagles, it's a balancing act. You've got to let the sled fly, but you also have to control it enough so you don't obviously crash.
Yeah, always a balancing act. Next up then is Frankie Del Duca, back after having to miss the four-man Worlds. He had just a precautionary week out, was showing some symptoms of concussion, but the doctors have said no, should be fine. Here in the Worlds in 2016, but not looking where he was going. He was a brakeman then, so this is his first race here. Only his 6th World Cup as a driver. Adrian Adams behind him in his 33rd four-man World Cup start. 2nd for Martin Christopherson and a 4th for Manio Mitchell, who's on the back of the four-man. Not the most cohesive hit there. The driver was not moving when the sled was.
But he's in and down with a 5.13. So he has managed those first 2 corners the best there so far.
Same start as Mickey Vogt's 2nd best speed, and within a couple of hundreds of Christoph Harfer, the leader.
Nice work so far as he comes down into this. A little bit of a tap coming into 5, which made him a little bit high there on the exit. And just a bit of a tap, sending him left into the Kreisel.
Still within 400s of leader Harfer. This is a great run for a man who's never raced on this track before. 2nd best speed, 300s back. Distinctive looking US sled. Nice height there as well. They're
a little
building...
bit high on the end of 10 here, and now he's letting the sled go. Whoa, this is going to be very close at the finish line. No!
Oh! Brakeman sat up, but I don't think he pulled on the brakes.
Didn't get on the brakes there, thank God.
He looked up and went, oh no, not here.
But Frankie should be happy with that run. Really nice run from him.
Well, he could have had the lead there, possibly. The brakeman only sat up. We're looking at 500ths of a second. That's enough. He had a big boy like Manio Mitchell there in the back. That's a lot of windbreak. What a good run!
Steering hard there off of 9, but he managed it very well.
I love that slow-mo shot as they come over the brow. You can see how just the weight of the sled is breaking the ice up underneath the runners.
Oh, his brakeman got his head up and realised where he was and ducked it down. And that's what makes this track so tricky too, because after the finish line, you have another corner, so some brakemen can get confused here.
In fact, they're not the only ones, because who was that sitting up at 2? Was that Adrian Adams?
Oh, but
just
Frankie's not happy about that.
Come on, Frankie. It's 500s. It's everybody's first time down here. All right, game on. This is going to be an entertaining couple of days, isn't it? Marcus Treichel next for Austria. Home ice for his 41st World Cup start. His parents both work in the race office. Got Sasha Stepan, Marcus Sammer and Sebastian Mitter at the 18 behind him. 5:05. Those are the starts that have transformed his season.
Nice work. Yeah, he's got Benny Meyer's old crew this year, and they have just been having fire starts.
600s up on Christoph Harfer.
He's doing a fantastic job here through this tricky upper labyrinth.
3 5th places so far this season, his best season ever.
Nice work as he comes down. Beautiful out of Kreisel, up into 8.
Only the 5th best speed, though. Maybe working a little hard for this. Nice height.
Beautiful out of 10. Best line we've seen so far. 1100s up.
Here we go. Never mind what the speed says. Look at what the time says. Across the line.
Nice.
50.50. 800s away from the track record. We are getting closer and closer.
Really nice drive there from Treichel. He knew what he needed to do. Obviously, this is his home track, so he's slid here loads of times, and that was an excellent drive.
I tell you what, the boys are only 1200s off the start record as well. That goes back to 2013. I bet you that Friedrich's crew are targeting that today.
Oh, that guy's foot there on the edge.
Yeah.
He nearly had a slip there.
Marcus Sammer, the veteran. Marcus in his 58th four-man World Cup race.
Nice work, in and down, and with a fantastic start to this race.
Marcus Sammer, first race here in November 2011. There are a few veterans in this sport. The Latvians seem to have quite a few of them as well. With Emil Tsipoulis, our World Championship joint silver medalist last week. Dov Springis in his 31st four-man World Cup. He's been sliding since February 2015. Mats Miknes, his 50th four-man World Cup start. Talk about hard yakka. And Edgar Nemmer back from his burn in Winterberg for the World Champs to take that silver. makes his 14th four-man World Cup start at the back.
That is a very quick recovery from Eggers if he's able
no
to
kidding.
get back onto the ice after such a bad crash in Winterberg, and the burn was nasty.
It was, and he said he'd be back for the Worlds, and he was good to his word. Good start from the crew, 4.99.
Nice work as he comes through the upper labyrinth, down his... A little bit high off the 6 there, took the tap but squared him out, going into Kreisel with the 5th best speed.
Oh, nice exit out of Kreisel as well.
5th best speed again as he comes through 9. Beautiful line out of there. Got the nice slingshot effect as he comes down into 10, a little bit high.
Slender lead. Single digits.
Fly as he comes down to the bottom.
Does he have Trico's shortcut? He does. 50.46. 400s off the track record.
Not bad.
Not bad. And Sapoulis was the shock of two-man and four-man worlds, wasn't he? He just had a sensational World Championships in what is his first full World Cup season.
Yeah, the Latvians have such a strong legacy in the sport, and so it's really great to see that a team like this is back up there winning World Championship medals.
And he's not even called Yanis or Oscars.
No, that's true.
Which for the last 20 years probably has been what you needed to be called to be a good Latvian bobsledder. So Emil Sapoulis with the lead and only 400s off the track record. 8 sleds in. So next up, Cedric Follador. Don't expect necessarily a start record for this crew, but they will give it their best. 7th World Cup four-man for Cedric. Raced here in December, his only time as a driver on this track in Europe Cup. Nicola Mariani, Dominic Huschmidt, and Greg Jones in for Quentin Giard at the back. So 29-year-old Jones, the most experienced of this crew in his 12th four-man World Cup race. Let's see what they've got. 4.99, the fastest start so far.
With a 5.18 getaway, 7th best start. He manages that first 2 corners okay as he comes down into corner 3. Nice work, a little bit late as he comes into 4, but really drives it around. Managed to avoid the wall, unlike some other athletes, but really nice as he comes down into Kreisel. First best speed. Wow, he really did a great job through that upper part of the track.
But he hoiked it out of the Kreisel, and that's going to cost him speed. He's dropping back.
Really high, but manages it well out of 10. Flying through the lower labyrinth.
This is really his forte. The four-man comes across the line in 6:50.84.
Not too bad, and his coach, Rico Peter, looks pretty happy with that one.
Rico Peter looks pretty happy with life most of the time, doesn't he? Nice bit of braking, driver brings it into the gap, no dramas. And again, that's experience, whereas you saw Frankie's team, Mania Mitchell, not raced here before, and training's different from racing. There's an awful lot more tension and adrenaline in the race.
Yeah, the brakemen really have to pay attention here to know where they are in the track so they don't make mistakes like that.
Or have the driver make sure that he screams
really beautiful.
brakes.
Such a nice high line
lines.
through 9, and that allows him to just drop out and be really middle as he goes into the straight. They're steering hard, but I guess you have to do that in four-man to make sure you get these big, heavy sleds out of there.
Yeah, kept the height maybe a fraction long. So, to Johannes Lochner, our world champion in two-man. Hansi Lochner, the 2017 world champion in four-man. He was a joint four-man world champion that year in Koenigsegg with Francesco Friedrich. Is this his last four-man weekend? We keep hearing it. Florian Bauer, Eric Brookett, and Joshua Tascher on the back.
Yoshi's doing a great job. Normally does not slide in the 4th position, but he's been doing a fantastic job the last weekend as he's had to jump in to replace Christian Rasp.
Yeah, Raspy pulling up lame the day before the four-man started, so Joshua Tascher in the big bus right from the start.
Bit high, really steering it around 6, but he manages to avoid the wall as he comes into Kreisel with the 6th best speed.
has won on this track, but not since 2017.
Now he starts to motor away with his second best speed as he comes down into corner 10.
Doing too much, though, having to correct all his exit steers.
But he's coming back with 500s.
Going to be close at the line, and again, Brakeman pops up a fraction early.
Not too bad, though. He's sitting third best.
Yeah, how far back? 500s off the lead, 100
best.
behind Tricle.
Third best start, third best downtime.
Well, it's not all about the start here, but the fastest starter is first, the second starter is second, the third fastest starter is third.
That is often how it goes here in
is
Eagles, though. The start is so important.
Especially in four-man, which is such a controlled discipline. Very hard to undo a start deficit in such a short track.
Yeah, he really drove it off corner 10 there and then just clipped the wall as he went to 11, but he handled it quite well.
So, 10 down, 11 to go. Emil Tsoupulis leads from Marcus Tricle and Hansi Lochner. First 10 sleds down in our field of four-man in Innsbruck, Austria. Seventh penultimate race of the season. Emil Tsoupulis of Latvia leads. The newly crowned five-time world champion Francesco Friedrich is next up.
He's so beautiful and loaded. He's in and down with a 5:02 start from the team.
Well, not even in the 90s. Start record 4:96. Was expecting that to go.
Nice, and he's up as he comes into this upper labyrinth section of the track. Well, a bit high of 5 there and 6, but he handles it not too bad, coming into Kreisel with just a slight tap. First best speed as he exits Kreisel, beautifully coming into 8.
5 straight four-man golds on this track.
Really nice coming down into 10, a little bit high, but dives it out as he comes into the lower labyrinth. Oh, really high off the end of 13, but he lets
Wild
it fly.
ride, track record, there we go, had to come.
He let it fly down there at the bottom, and it paid off for him.
Beats his own track record by a mile. 50.42 becomes 50.28.
Wow.
24 hundredths of a second off an average start.
Wow, he let the sled fly at the bottom there, really, and that's the things with Franz. He has so much experience in the sport. He can know where he can let the sled fly and where he has to control the sled, and it paid off for him here.
The more you know where to steer, the less steering you have to do, and the sled does the work. And look at the way they're in and down, like a well-oiled machine.
Nice and high coming around.
Big height.
Really big height. But he also had that in 10 too, and it just must have had a beautiful slingshot effect, and it really helped him.
Great shot there of 9. He's steering it out and corrects the steer, straights it up before he even drops out a 9. He knows exactly where the sled's going to go. Jacob's calendar on the opposite end of the experience. First man out of the start shed in the four-man race. Binned it out of Horseshoe. Crashed out of the first run. Just to remind everybody that Horseshoe and the rest of Samurit's last couple of weeks was not as benign as normal. But 4th World Cup start for the 20-year-old. And again, making his World Cup debut because not everybody at the top of the Latvian pile is quite as healthy as they might be.
5:13 starts. Didn't quite squeeze it around 1 and 2 as nicely as some other athletes, but he's got the sled back on line as he comes down into corner 4. Handles it quite well. A little bit of a tap coming into 6, and then a tap again as he comes into Kreisel.
Kind of making all the two-seat mistakes, really.
Yeah, it's really different to see how the four-man is different to the monobob and the two-man, and the weight of the sledge is helping pilots to be able to get off the corners just that little bit better.
Do still wonder if thinner runners all round might not help the speeds in the monobobs, because you'll be
really
skidding
high
as
there.
big high. Oh, shaves the wall.
As he comes down with the 8th best downtime at 50.77. Oh, and the poor brakeman gets covered in snow there.
Yep.
That's the thing with these formats, the more they come down, look at him, he's absolutely covered.
It's like somebody's just dropped a box of washing powder in there. And it goes up inside the helmet as well. Actually, often later in the run, you see the brakemen kind of trying to clear their helmet so they can breathe again.
Yeah, it's just the more formats come down, the more the braking shirts get chopped up, and the more snow is going to end in the thing, and in the sled, which makes it difficult because when you have to go get weighed, you have to make sure all these snow is out so you don't get overweight.
That is 20-year-old driver Jakob's calendar. Next, a few more Union flags waving for Brad Hall, our World Championship silver medalist, tied with Emil Sipoulis. Aaron Gulliver at 2, Taylor Lawrence at 3, Greg Cackett at 4. This has always been a happy hunting ground for British bobsleighs. Brad Hall in 2-man and 4-man.
They've had a fantastic season here. We used to work in a cooperation. We still work quite closely together on the track, and I'm so proud of these guys. They've done a fantastic job this season to be executing like they have.
Yeah.
5:03 start, third best start time of this heat so far.
Only 100th behind Francesco Frutin. He is the target, and they are going to have to set track records probably in both heats to beat him here. 400s back. Oh, and a little tap.
Hit, and then he was high on the end of 5 and quite high on 6 there, just not able to get the sled under control like he would have liked with the 9th best seed as he comes into Kreisel.
Nice looking exit though. Let's see if he can bring it back.
Nice and high through 9, which shoots him out straight into 10.
1100s back, still in the top 3 mix. Needs a good run through the labyrinth. It's not going to be the lead. It's not going to be second. It is second, just ahead of Emil Sipoulis.
He really was able to execute that bottom part of the track, which obviously helped him out a lot there. The top part, I'm sure Brad is going to look at the video and know he can fix that up in that second heat.
Yep.
But he did a really good job in the bottom section.
Well, here 1 into 2.
So it just swings from side to side. Really difficult part of the track this year.
Got early on to 2, and there was not enough speed there to hold that line.
A beautiful line as he comes out, like minimal steering, and just straight shoots him down that straightaway into 10.
Yeah, bottom half of the track below the Kreisel was definitely nice. Top half needs a little bit of fixing. And the boys will look to get down into the 4s at the start. Moving on now to Patrick Baumgartner, first ever Youth Olympic champion back in 2012. That was here in Innsbruck in Austria.
That was really cool to see. I was here for that race, and that was so exciting. The whole Italian team was so excited for that.
Eric Fantazzini, Robert Mazzia and Lorenzo Bellotti, the crew. 28th 4-man World Cup start for their driver.
And down with a 5:12 start. Ooh, I thought he was going to manage that corner nicely, but the right bumper just caught him there as he went into 2, now into corner 3.
He's had very mixed results here. 5 previous World Cups, he's missed the cut in 2 of them. His best result, a 14th place in January 3 years ago now.
A little bit of a brush as he comes into Kreisel with the 7th best speed. But
top 6 run.
A little bit skiddy as he comes out of Kreisel there.
And that's going to cost him.
Not as high in corner 9, which left him into a little bit of a skid in the straightaway, but dives it out of 10.
Still plenty of speed left in the track in the middle of the run here. It's holding up well despite the humid conditions. Across the line, 9th place. Well, sort of lost ground all the way down there.
Yeah, he was bleeding all the way, but there was a few mistakes at the top there. The top part of the track is a lot slower, and you just have to be so perfect so you're rewarded at the bottom with your speed. And Patrick's going to go back and look at the video and see that he can be a little bit smoother through the top there, but really dives it hard out of Kreisel there, and which sends him going right into corner 8.
Yeah, takes a hit, which actually helps him, I guess, with the line, kicks the back out a little bit.
Probably the mistake that you do want out of Kreisel. You don't want to be heading in left and then getting bumped away. It makes corner 8 really tricky, but that was not too bad for Patrick.
Not a bad looking run. Never been inside the top 10 here. Nor has Adam de Besch, but this is only his 5th four-man race as a driver. Coach has gone for a big haircut, hasn't he? That's a proper #1 buzz cut. So Adam de Besch with Michael de Besch, Joachim Prochaska and Antonin Vijas behind him. Vijas in only his 2nd four-man World Cup start, made his debut in Winterberg. And de Besch with a 19th place finish here, has competed in 1 previous World Cup and done 3 Europa Cup races as a driver. He's got reasonable knowledge of the track.
Yeah, Adam's been competing on the lower circuits for quite some time now. But with Dominic out, he's been able to jump into his sled for this World Cup here and starting off with a 5:14 start.
Well, 2 11th place finishes so far in his rookie World Cup season, which didn't start in North America.
A little bit high on the exits of these, which is sending him into the opposite wall. Bit high, really high, and he dives out. Oh, and unfortunately getting a skid as he goes into corner 8, but nice and high in corner 9. Beautiful coming around corner 10 there into the lower labyrinth.
Oh, a little clatter on the wall.
50.99, 11th best at the bottom.
2 previous 11th place finishes, his best results in World Cup races. So he is right there at his best at the moment. And one of the sleds that has finished ahead of him will not compete in the second run. Frankie Del Duca, we saw looking at the replay of the crew sitting up before the final corner. It's not that that's caused them to disqualify. They have been judged to be overweight. So no more run for Frankie Del Duca. Second half of the season has been really tough for him here in Europe.
Oh no, it's really unfortunate because that was a really nice run there from Frankie. So
really was, after having to miss the four-man worlds. Adam de Besch then, so at the moment in 11th place, but we will see what the rest of the run brings. 16th of our 21 starters is Mihai Tente of Romania. Last year, 16th and 15th in the 2 four-man races here. 16 World Cup start for him. And Altenburg, the first of the 2 races there, finished in 8th place, a World Cup high for Mihai.
in and down with a 5:19 start. Oh, did not manage that first corner well at all.
4 previous World Cups here, and in my memory, he's been sitting in for all of the 3 previous ones.
Yeah, unfortunately a bit injured for the first part.
He's been healthy so far this season. This is a nice-looking drive as well.
He would have a lot of experience here. The Romanians, oh, that was very unfortunate coming out of Christ, but the Romanians always do their national competitions here in Eagles, which is crazy, the amount of pilots and athletes that they have. It's really great to see.
13th best at the start, slipping away to 14th at the moment, behind Li Chunjian of China, 14th at the line, 51.27.
Yeah, he just had a few mistakes at the top, especially that corner 1, which would have really killed their velocity at the start there. And, oh, just missing the rubber there. And then the mistake out of Kreis was just diving the sled out. So I'm sure he's going to look back at the video and see that he can definitely fix up those mistakes.
Again, it looks so slow, 1 to 2, but it just shoves you away, that bump of ice.
It's the exit of 1 is just shoving the four-mans to the left, which means that the sled swings left, it clips a wall and swings back right, and just makes it really tricky for the pilots to get into corner 2 straight.
Francesco Frugic leads from Brad Hall and Emil Tsipoulis, with Marcus Treichel in 4th ahead of Hansi Lochner as we get down to our 17th sled. Timo Rona now, because Simon Friedli re-injured himself at the beginning of the 2-man competition. Rona now takes up the Swiss 2 role for what we assume will be the rest of the season. 2 of his 5 previous 4-man World Cup starts were here in January 2020, but has not raced in the World Cup here since. He's He's got Fabian Weschler, Luca Rolli and Mathieu Hersberger at the back of the sled. Again, a couple of late changes in their lineup. For Fabian at 2 and Mathieu at 4. This is only their second four-man World Cup race. They made their debuts in Altenburg.
5:12 start there from the guys as they come around corner 3. A little bit high down on 4, but manages to squeeze it away from the wall, but didn't manage to squeeze it away there. And it's a little bit of a cascade effect there. If you don't have the correct exit off of 4, then it just makes 5 and then 6 harder.
And then that makes you in trouble for the labyrinth, for the Kreisel, and that upper
So
labyrinth.
on and so forth.
Yeah, has a lot of answer for.
Really high there off of 10, but nice dives down, lets the sled fly through the labyrinth here.
Whipping through the final corners across the line, 10th place. That's a good run. Again, brakes on very early.
That's the key here, actually.
Yeah.
You really have to get those brakes on, especially for the 4-man. And as you can see, the braking structure is getting broken up more and more as more sleds come down. It's making it harder for the brakemen. So getting it on before that the finish corner is really important.
And again, Mathieu Hersberger there. Only his second World Cup four-man start. Yeah, put the sled in the grooves, boys. And you can, again, you know, that is the newness of the team.
Yeah, definitely. But that comes with experience. But luckily the coaches were on there and making sure the athletes had the sled in the grooves before they took off.
Willie would have been very calm about that. No florid Anglo-Saxon yelling. Just, boys, get the sled in the grooves. You're not going anywhere until you're starting right. Now then, for the USA, Jeff Gabwa, he will be their sole representative now after disqualification, unfortunately, for Frankie Del Duca. He's got Karsten Vissering, Paul Rabich, and Freddie Harris. Karsten sounds like he should be sliding for the Dutch. Paul maybe for the Czech Republic. And Freddie Harris, he's definitely from London, isn't he? Not at all. Second World Cup start for Freddie. A debut in the World Cup for Paul. His first four-man race at the top tier was the World Championships. And Karsten Vissering also in his second four-man race in this rented Swiss sled.
I was going to say, that looks like a rented Swiss sled with a 5:32 start.
And Freddie Harris at the back, really struggling to get himself down into the sled.
A little bit high there off the exit of 3. Doesn't manage to squeeze the sled away from the wall, just tapping as he comes through the labyrinth down into the Kreisel.
Freddie Harris at the back is the most experienced. He started 3 four-man races, the other 2 brakemen 2 each in total.
A little bit low through 9, which means he just struggled to get off there as he comes down into the lower labyrinth.
Nice looking run.
The sled fly there through the bottom as he comes down in a 51:38.
Raced here in January 2022 in Europe Cup. That's the only time he's been here, but that was only in 2-man. So again, having to learn all about this track anew in the 4-man, a whole different experience.
Yeah, as I said before, it's just a little bit of a domino effect as you come through this upper labyrinth. If you don't get the good exit out of corner 4, it just cascades all the way down until you get into Kreisel where you can get the sled back online.
If you tap in 4, you take that tap as well in 6 out of 9. Steering it down nicely.
Just not as high through the middle of 9, which meant that he was high on the exit there and had to steer it off and unfortunately clipped the wall before he went into 10.
So done and down for the first of our 2 heats. Mattia Variola next up, 19th of 21 starters, former brakeman in his 10th World Cup as a driver in 4-man. Starting his second 4-man is Riccardo Ragazzi, his 4th Fabio Batti, and his 8th Jose Abu on the back handles.
A 5:18 start for the boys, and doesn't really navigate that first corner that nicely, but now he comes down into it a little bit early as he comes onto 3. Really hard steer as he comes around that first part of the corner. A little bit high, a little bit messy as he comes down. And again, high on the exit of 6.
Doing a little bit too little too late. He's reacting to the corners rather than leading the sled on.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's doing. He's just missing the seat, but high, like really high, but too early in 9, and that meant he got picked up on the end of 9 and had to steer it off, but managed it pretty well as he comes down into the last corners.
That moment there in 9 had Brianna jumping up out of her seat. 51.26.
Yeah, just when you get that early height on 9, you just get that pressure back and was not able. And the brakeman nearly got his fingers hooked there on the sign, and they couldn't manage to avoid the rubber there.
15th at the bottom behind Li Chunjan of China.
Really dove the sled off of Aiden, just very high but very early, and that's the thing. And then he was coming down and the corner was not finished yet, and he just got picked up again, but luckily he was able to get off there. No, but you can see the sled, he is robbing putting that off.
Really is.
Make sure he gets it off.
Coach watching there going, whoa boy. Yep, that was a slightly worrying little moment.
Boys should really turn the sled on its side. It makes it a lot easier.
And again, that's a little bit of experience. Simone Batazzo's been there, done that. Everybody remembers La Plan, where he just went straight through with no brakes at all.
Yeah, that's a famous YouTube clip, isn't it? I think I've seen that many times.
Came past the waiting crews doing about 70 miles an hour. It was not lacking in drama. Mate Bohenik now making his 4-man World Cup debut after making his World Championship debut last week in St. Moritz. David Buresh, Alice Svoboda and Andre Radzil are the crew.
The Czechs have a lot of new pilots coming through, which is really great to see, with a 5:22 start. Not bad from this crew here, but really, really struggled through that first corner there.
13th best velocity from the 16th fastest start, so they're loading nicely and keeping that speed in the sled well.
But very high on 4 there, again on 5, and just not able to get around those exits on that low line.
And you think about what we saw from Francesco Frucci, and that's the experience of knowing that driving that fraction earlier, the sled will then do everything for you and you won't have to wrestle it off the other end.
Yeah, for sure. But like we've said earlier, the track is very different this year. That upper labyrinth is cut very different, but experience obviously allows you to adapt a lot quicker. With a 51.36 downtime, with 17th best downtime for the Czech team there.
Ahead of Jeff Gabois, ahead of Bechler of France. So we have 1 to go. David Bechler is currently tail end Charlie and would be worried about making the second heat were it not for the disqualification of Frankie Del Duca.
It looks like he just didn't really do anything through that for the 4th corner. And then also on the exit of 6 there, which sends him into a skid all the way into Kreisel.
Little better out of 9. Ends up just getting squared up into 10. All right. So learning his trade. There's Mate helping along with the front of the sled. Final sled is Drazen Cilic of Croatia. Now, we're just saying before we went on air, when's the last time Drazen did a 4-man World Cup race? Well, the answer is the first time was here in Innsbruck in 2013. His second 4-man World Cup start was in Koenigsee in 2019. This is his third 4-man World Cup start.
Oh, it looks like he's going to be sitting in.
I was just like, sitting in.
I was just thinking, is he going to put his pilot bar up? But nope, unfortunately, he is going to be sitting in for this run.
Which means that Nikola Nimac, Mario Starek and Antonio Zelic will have to do all the heavy lifting. Not only is the sled heavier, but only 3 pushing. So they will get down. The one good side is that Drazen is in full control of the sled right from the start.
Still, the tricky corner 1.
It's too narrow. It's not straight enough. You cannot get the sled through without having to try and turn around that right-hand wall. And
yeah, I was talking to Graham Richardson about it in the training, and he was saying how tricky corner 1 was. But I was, of course, in a monobob. I'm like, oh yeah, it's.
What are you talking about?
It's cut a little differently, but it's not too bad. But now I obviously see what he's talking about. It's really hard.
The sled's it's half as long again. Well, 20th best start. Let's see if he can get up towards our first lead, David Bobsleigh. Actually, probably has less four-man driving experience than the Frenchman does. Brakemen are already starting to sit up.
No, I think that was the third guy, and
Yeah.
the brakeman did not get onto the brakes enough. Let's hope he can get onto them as they come around the finish corner.
Yeah, not a bad job. But look, he's almost standing up there, hauling on those handles. That is a full upper body workout.
Drazen is such a character. It's so fun to have him around the track. Not too bad, really driving off the exit of 9 there. The sled flops up. And does he manage to? I think he gets a little bit of a brush as he comes down into corner 10, but not too bad.
Well, he got the last of the ice, 21st sled down. Just check
Your hair looks good, mate. Don't worry about it.
Not bad. Not bad. So, at the other end of the pile is perhaps the man we expected to be the leader, Francesco Friedrich. The newly crowned 5-time four-man world champion crushed his own track record. He didn't shave a couple of hundreds out of it. He took a couple of tenths out of it.
That was impressive for sure.
And nobody else got close. Fastest man down the mountain. And Brad Hall, what was his run? It was a 50.43, 100th of the previous track record. He lies in second, narrowly ahead of Emil Sapoulis. So our top 3, or our podium finishers from the Worlds, are the top 3. Marcus Streichel in 4th, ahead of Hansi Lochner, Christoph Hafer. And then Mickey Vogt still in that little dogfight. Patrick Baumgartner's not out of that, nor is Jacobs Callender, and Timo Röner and Cedric Follador nose to tail. 800s between Dobesh and Norton. Norton 2 ahead of Lee, and Variola only 7 behind him. Tentea 8 behind him, and then a couple of hundreds between the rest of the field as well. Typically here in Innsbruck, a very tight first heat. Let's see what the second brings when they go in reverse order to decide the first four-man gold medals of the weekend. That'll be at 1600 local, 1500 GMT. That is in 39 minutes from now. See you then. Bye for now.